So when you're ready.
I still don't, there's several spots. But I also want to.
Yeah, sounds good. If you want me to say anything about this, I would that, or if you want to do it, that'd be great. But first,
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
He required to say like firms and, trying to like fill all the committees. Like, why are you filling all the committees? I think, well, she had to do it to find them. Probably doing it much.
It's all about.
Sorry. I'm not going to do this anyway, so I understand how it's got to do. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. But you're nice and balanced and you have a different perspective. As I'm sure everyone has. Am I on camera?
You are on camera. Anywhere in the room.
That the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Amen. A couple of announcements while stragglers are working their way in. And before we begin our sharing our visioning work. On this board, Sister Heather has put up this nice grid that helps you say whether or not you need a ride to the airport or some other place in order to get yourself home, or if you can offer a ride like that. So your name, your flight time, and which day you're going. And then if you have a car or if you need a ride, kind of fill in that as needed between now and tomorrow morning. I do need to tell you that we will need to be out of our rooms by tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, which means like right after breakfast, you can finish your packing and get some of it done ahead of time. And then you're welcome to bring your bags in here, and this will be a safe place to keep them. John of the house manager, John Colaizzi, he said we could put them in the blue room or you could put them down in the lobby downstairs, but I think it's probably better if we keep them all near us somewhat. So that'll be for tomorrow morning, that's a little information for you. And in terms of, bedding and things like that, if you could, roll up sheets and, towels in the pillowcase and then leave it outside your door, that'll help. Okay, now we're gonna turn this board around. Help! I love watching women work.
Excuse me?
Yeah, that's the piece, right, I like watching women work. They do good work. The other side of this, I don't want you to forget that, OSL Worship Online, in order for that to work for us, which we say we want to do, we need to have some leaders fill in the blanks there. So, somebody who's really eager to get going and thinks that maybe in the next 2 weeks, you could pull together November Evensong for All Saints, we need you to jump in now. And then there's 3 or 4 other places on here where you could sign up to provide leadership with you, either you or your chapter or someone else you know and love who will work with you on that information. So on one side of the board, transportation, on this side of the board, OSL worship leadership. Okay, we've had some time of visioning today. And I would like to, I'm going to take this in semi-random order. I'm going to ask Sister Heather to tell us what the Life God members may have had to say.
We had 7 life vow members and 5 people interested in moving towards taking life vows. Engage in a wonderful conversation about our experiences of coming to the order and what that process was like. And if anyone who was there as part of the conversation wants to add anything to that, I'd be happy to open the floor. I think it was a lot of storytelling, and that was just a very rich time for me. But would anyone want to add anything to that? I think that's no.
Anything particular we need to make notes of for maybe the minutes that we ought to pay attention to?
Yeah, I don't know. We talked about the process of like taking life vows in the order, and it was a rich time of personal sharing and.
Because that was the only question was, what is the process?
Yeah.
And as soon as you say, get in touch with the abbot, that's all there is. That's all there is to the process from that point on.
Then you get assigned a companion and you spend the year working together. No, I think our group maybe was less about visioning about how things could be done differently than simply about how this process works now.
Maybe it's just important to note that it would be good to have opportunities for Life God members to get together and do storytelling.
Yeah.
So maybe
And
something
we
like that.
currently not have companion for like members.
No, we're not.
Okay. By the way, if you are a reporter for your particular group here, it would be helpful to share your notes with Sister Jeanette so that she can get these ideas in the minutes. And I pressed Brother Brett into service rather rudely this morning, but he rose to accept the call to service. And so I'm going to ask him to tell us about what the mystery group had to say.
Ooh. That was mysterious.
More incidents.
Yes.
It was a dark and stormy night. Rain hit it off the tin roof. Now, there wasn't as much mystery as train has left the station. I'm gonna stick to my notes. And so, our assignment, as we understood it, was to bring up particular concerns that might be good to talk about and address later, things that we would want to put on the agenda on the horizon. And if that's not what you wanted us to do, it's too late.
I'm happy with that.
So the concerns brought up were, growing leadership opportunities for, for the younger folks that are finding their way to and through the order, and particularly some sort of targeted nourishment development group effort of, for those folks, which seem to be arriving at a surprising rate. And I have also informed that the folks have brought that up about nominations, and I've written their names down, so. For the spring. There was a question about advertisement. Since folks are coming in at a greater rate than a trickle, and we've kind of been doing zero advertisement, a question of, you know, we have something really, really good here, and how do we tell people about it? Who do we tell about it? Are there target demographics? What should they be if there aren't? We're aware that our current infrastructure may not be prepared for anything greater than a trickle of interest. And what might it take to continue to beef that up? And knowing that we are growing beyond being a primarily United Methodist group, what does our interaction and relationship look like in circles outside Methodist circles? Third topic was, what is the purpose of the order? In the sense that there seems to be kind of two coexisting purposes. There's the charism and the product put out by the order proper of the liturgical scholarship and the publishing of resources. And then there's the work that the order does to prepare and equip and enhance individuals for ministry and life and service in their own context. And those seem to be two related but distinct charisms. And it seems to be the last time, as far as I can tell on the paper trail, the last time the order did work to dive down into who we are and what we're about and what we can do now was about 20 years ago, and you know, it's about time. Fourth, very exciting conversation on the relative ease in which we could make some of our wonderful resources available through audio recording. Psalter offices, I know you can record yourself into Watto, but for sources outside of Watto, especially some of the resources that are unique to us, both as a resource to chapters and a resource to individual Lucans in their life, but also as congregations that we know and serve are finding themselves relying more on digital media, and then new exciting expressions pop up, you know, recording services, psalters, hymns, materials, putting them online for free, or that seems like something that, and just the 4 or 5 of us that were in the room, we have the gifts and the ability and the resources to do already, and really, they were just asking, not even asking for your permission, just saying that it's going to be done.
Sit down.
It's going to be done. And then on that note, a question which may already be answered, but what of our resources are available digitally in like an ebook version? And if not, why, and pretty please?
Luke and Salter, please, with all of
You can get it on.
formatting.
Yeah, and that was the question, it may be available, just the 4 of us in the room didn't know, and
Red book is, you can get it on Kindle form, Luke and Salter, we're all the saints.
oh,
I would,
Kindle form?
Yeah.
I would suggest, like, for going out to Arizona, I got the red book, the blue book, But these, you know, I got all the votes, but the red book is not accurate and was missing things and.
Ooh,
missing
missing sections.
Yeah,
That's a
we have,
wonderful
that's
suggestion.
that really to digitize it, it needed to be rescanned or something quite laborious. But it isn't, I could not take it and sit in the worship setting in Arizona and follow along. It's like, where to go? The earth is and.
And,
But it needs work, but I don't know what has to happen, but that, I wouldn't say that. Addition of the salt has been great.
it's good to know, and for those in the room, anything else that I've omitted or misrepresented, or anything that just suddenly struck you that you wanna share?
I will just say, scanning it is pretty simple, and I don't know this for certain. But there may be someone who cut the spine off of the book and fed it through a copier. And that seemed to work pretty well.
Hypothetically.
Yeah,
I've never done that.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got my.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you'll stand there long enough to receive questions from people,
Yeah.
that perhaps you could do that. You want to say something first?
Well, we're pushing the limit of my understanding here, but, there's, the question on the red book would both be making sure that what's out there is complete and accurate. If we've got glitches out there, those would need to be fixed. The other is, I don't think we simply want a scanned version out there that is, you can go and read it sequentially all the way through. You want something that you can click and get to the service you want.
Yeah.
And that's a different problem, but
We still have the original Quark files, and by we, I mean Sister Cynthia.
Question is, what? I've already lost the first two things that you said, but for what purpose? Like, we can say, we can advertise till we're blue in the face, but unless someone is seeking this discipline, it doesn't matter how much we
Oh, right.
advertise.
And the idea wasn't so much that as I can capture the spirit of the conversation, the idea is that we have something really good that, like licorice, if you like it, you really like it. And there might be some people that aren't aware that we do have the licorice. And we have a surprising amount of people kind of stumble to our website or stumble into a chapter meeting. And we think in the future, it might be good to give thought of, are there more direct ways to engage with the outside world?
Like, can we get a pamphlet in every church? Gives a little explanation.
Yeah,
And that is welcome.
Some material that if you wanted to leave out at an annual conference or something, that's,
Yeah.
something like that, like,
Yeah, that'd be great.
word of mouth is working great, but are there other avenues besides late night Google searches about monasteries and word of mouth?
And if I may, I had no idea I was seeking this until I was here.
That's it.
Yeah, this is what I needed, and I had the whim and the time off and the finances to find it. But I think if we do a better job of presenting who we are and what we offer, some people may realize that this is the thing that can satiate that hunger.
Maybe we need to amend our thinking from capitalist advertising to Lucan apostleship.
Yes.
Going out and telling people and showing people ourselves what this is, what it can be like, inviting people, being invited into their homes and sharing it there. Like, there's a different mindset of how we spread things than we're Lucans.
Well taken.
And as far as who we are, I thought that's what Brother Mark's storytelling and his historical research, I thought that was a big part of who we are and,
Oh, it is, but
Can I say something?
yeah, you have to work real hard to find it.
Yes, I would just say that, we utilized some basic advertising in Bend, Oregon, and it was extremely bountiful in what we got out of that. And there was people that were able to, connect with the Order of St. Luke that would have never known existed had we not utilized some of those kind of rudimentary marketing, points. And it was still done an apostolic way as they came and shared, but just the initial seed being sown, I think that can take a lot of forms, and it's good to have something that you can put in someone's hand that explains what it is.
I'm not against that, I'm not saying that, I'm just.
And again, it's not a mandate. These are things that we think we should be thinking about,
Yeah.
and,
Sister Kimberly was first.
Yeah, I'd just like to expand a little bit about what you were saying about music. We had batted around a bunch of different ideas, but we were, as you said, amongst our four, we had both the equipment and the expertise, not counting people who weren't in the room, to put together some pretty good professionally, semi-professionally recorded music files. And in the room, we have the musical talent, both vocal and instrumental, to record some things that could be helpful both for us as an order, but also for maybe some of our churches. And so I just wanted to say what we were, just a couple of details, was that it might be that at a retreat in the future or a council in the future, that we ask people to come slightly early, stay slightly late, something like that, or we add a session following a particular worship where we redo some chanting, we redo something without the doors banging, without the coughing, without people moving around, that kind, those kind of just where it's where the usual distractions when you're in a worship setting would be minimized. And I think we could pretty efficiently come up with some really beautiful recordings that we could share as a community for us to take and use when we're not in community.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree.
Thank you.
Are you done?
I would like to be done, but hands keep. No,
Oh, okay.
make it an easy one.
I just wanted to share that my understanding of part of what Brother Mark is doing is to make sure that we have memorialized our history as our canons who hold the institutional memory of the order and how it formed. As we get older and do not come to retreat anymore and we start to pass away, we don't want to lose that institutional memory. So Brother Mark's been kind enough to do a lot of research. So far, I have a whole pile of papers, which are great to read through our institutional history. And if you look in his report, in the book of the reports, he's included photographs of some of the journey of the order so far. So the story project is very important, that you let him know your stories, why you joined, what is important to you, where do you want to see us go? All of that would be wonderful. And as I think about it, Sister Joyce from New Jersey does want to talk to you. And I would suggest sooner rather than later. So she's what, 94? And she's, yes.
She's frail in body, but not in mind.
Well,
Yeah,
she can.
yeah, she can.
Let's talk, we'll figure out
Okay.
between the three.
Yeah, I would say sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Yeah, here.
Because that's part of the, I mean, we're growing older and, you get in a mindset of we've always done it but we really need to keep this history alive and memorialized, but you had all good ideas.
Thank you, Brother Brett, and the group that were working with him. I want to say, Brother Mark.
So I had a question, and this is my question and my thought thing. I did want to know, Brother Daniel, when you used the recordings the other day, Brother Daniel, when you used the recordings the other day, what was your source for those?
Someone put it in the Facebook group, and then.
Another set.
Yeah, and then
Oh, yes.
I went through and I screen recorded.
Okay.
Individual ones, so I had videos.
So you can do that, but if we get into actually publishing it, we have to be careful. Even those song tones are under copyright.
Yes,
We just need to know that,
Yeah.
those are permissions that we would have to get to publish them widely. You can't just put them up there.
right, and that's part of the problem with digitizing all of our
Right,
resources is several things are under copyright.
Yeah.
And so that's stuff that we have to be very careful in terms of how we reproduce it digitally. We do, yes, Martin?
So if you listen to Brother Dwight, when he talks about those psalm tones, he talks about, he'll often talk about the Lutheran psalm tones.
Right,
You know, those are the ones, and so they're actually owned, I think, by the ELCA. And they're the ones who wrote them, so we just have to remind our P's and Q's about all that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
and I think this is a fair time to remind everybody that we have a web amplified daily office easily available on our website, on the OXL website. We have dealt with these kind of digital electronic issue questions several times in the past. There has even been produced a threefold brochure that you can print and hand out to people. It may be a little dated. It used to be on the website. We can't seem to find it right now. But that doesn't mean it couldn't be put back on the website. But that's the kind of thing that you would download and hand to somebody if you were inviting them to the order. Yes, James?
If they put it back on the website, can they put it on so that it's printable? Because right now, when it prints, if you try to print it back to back, it doesn't fold properly. So the way it's arranged on the pages doesn't allow it just to be simply printed and folded. You print it and fold it, and you're like, oh, well, it does, so it needs to be adjusted.
Those are things to be attended to when we are getting those things produced. I'm going to call on the group that I was leading, and Christy, you were doing the scribal work for us, so I invite you to come up and report. But thank you for your feedback and your continuing discussion on these matters. These ideas are very helpful to us. Let's hear some more.
All right. We were the regular visioning group with no specific focus. But Brother George got us going with a couple of really good questions. And so I want to let you know what the questions were. What are your hopes and dreams for the Order of St. Luke going forward was one question. What brought you here and what might keep you coming back? Why are you drawn to the order, or how might the order evolve? So those were our questions. And so we all, most of us, I think, shared around the circle. Certainly things like liturgy, prayer, fellowship. A number of comments were made about being isolated in our ministry settings. So just the community, the value of like-minded Christian community. A desire for resources and mentoring among ourselves so that we feel that we're leading with integrity. Clergy, I guess that would mostly be clergy, but in whatever way you may lead in your church. And then also book studies. The book studies seem to be for those that are doing those. And then we had a number of ideas, and please, if you were in this group and I'm leaving out an idea, chime in. Ideas for how do we put the order forward? Possibly considering how we might create a program that would engage youth in some way, like some sort of confirmation or some opportunity to engage with youth who might have interest in, the order. Strengthening and expanding, the internet community. Some of us, myself included, couldn't, be a part of, the order without the internet community. So, how do we strengthen and expand that? Identify ways to strengthen chapter life, both in person and online. So strengthening was a big theme, more assertive in invitation and service. So this is kind of what we're talking about, whether it's a brochure or what kind of invitation, but however that would happen, strengthen chapters, liturgy developed and shared to address timely issues and situations such as community liturgy for when we can't gather. You know, something comes up and seems relevant, people seem to be struggling, what could the order create and share that would be helpful? A comment that, and again, maybe the brochure gets at this, people aren't clear what the order is and what it isn't. So to have an elevator speech or a way to say in 5 sentences, here's what the order is, just pretty hard to do, as I have discovered myself. More ways to be in community, like Sister Kimberly's Feasts and Holy Days, like this online worship idea is a good way to be in community. And also just, again, observing that technology offers greater potential for recruiting in the future. That's all I have on my list. Questions or thoughts? See, no one puts their hand up for me. Nothing.
That just means you did a real good job.
Oh, is that what it means? Okay, very thorough. Okay, thank you. All right.
Oh, and thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Christy. I keep thinking about word of mouth advertising is always the best.
Yes.
The apostolic approach of sharing things with one another. And I'll go back to what I said about Brother Bob Davis in the memorial service last night. My name was mentioned in a PS on the bottom of a letter that he, did you find that, Brother Mark, or did your brother Daniel come up?
I found that.
You found that.
Last week, found it.
But to see this letter, first of all, it speaks to Bob's careful filing, but it also speaks to, it was a personal invitation that eventually came to me to go with him to a meeting. And it was when our chapter was just in formation. So it was early on in that process. And so that personal invitation, I suspect that most of you, if you haven't come to the order by stumbling upon it online, you came to it through some kind of personal connection. And so I would say that continues to be the best, but we can always do better at our efforts of reaching out. And I think I'm hearing that so far from all 3 groups that have spoken. And we want to have, there's a 4th group that we want to hear from, but we're not done with questions.
I just have,
Sister Debbie.
thank you. My question is, what do you want to say the order is? Like, what are we? We are a group of people who are seeking to live the rule of life and service. It's right there before us. We are a dispersed community. And forgive my tone of voice. I'm not mad. I am just,
Emphatic.
thank you. I'm impassionate, as someone said. I'm not mad. But we have an identity, and I think I have an identity in the group. So what is it you're looking to explain? What else do you think you need to say about it? In the hopes that you don't think that you're not doing a good job because we don't have more members. Like, we can talk to her blue in the face, but if somebody's not ready, they're not ready. And when they're ready, then hopefully, yes, we have lived our lives and worn our habits and done what we were supposed to do, that 3 years from now, somebody's gonna come back and say, remember when you said you went on that retreat? What was that thing you were talking about? Because otherwise, who the order is? The order is each one of us, as unique and individual as we are, living out the rule of life and service. And I agree, we could have pamphlets, and that's why we have caps and T-shirts and any other number of things to advertise. But when I hear, what is the order? Now I'm a little bit nervous. Like, wait a minute, I just took Life Vows a year ago, because I thought we knew what the order was. I thought it was going to be around for a long time. So the order is all of us. As different, Brother David, what he's doing in Oregon is different than what we're doing in New Jersey, or what they're doing in Tennessee, but we're all still the order. So that would, in the continuing of the pondering, what is it that you want to say the order is? If people are asking, what is the order? What is it you want to say it is? So.
James and then Brother Jim.
I'm becoming part of the order because of the rule of life and service. And I absolutely love that in the order, when I listened to the May conference and the abbot said, in the order, we respect those who respect the rule of life and service. I mean, we respect the rule and we respect others. So, and then what the trifold is the rule of life and service. It wasn't grabbed in anybody. I mean, so we haven't changed that. All we did was an elevator. Oh, that's a term I've never heard before.
Elevator speech, yeah.
Elevator speech. So we took the rule of life and service and we said, we are a religious order of monks amongst us. So instead of being monks up in a monastery or a convent, these are monks in families, monks in their places of employment and work, monks out in the world, monks among us. That rang a bell. And so Brother David made it on the radio. They found it noteworthy. They wanted to interview him. What's going on? And then he made it on TV. He looked very good. Thank you very much. Wearing his scapular and everything. He's mortified by it, but so that's all we're doing is so we're marketing. We're amongst us. Just a cute little elevator phrase. So
That may explain why I got a call before coming here by a man who said, I want to be a monk. And I said, oh, okay.
well, right, and because the thing is, in the past, a monk was male, but then so was abbot was male, and we've taken it and broadened it that it's so much more than just male and female.
But I'm wondering if that phone call came from, somewhere in your area.
I'm holding on to a couple of thoughts here, but I want Brother Jim to get in and say a word.
So.
And then I'm going to make a
A
comment.
number of years ago, I was in Erie and I visited the Episcopal Cathedral up there because they do Anglican chant every week. And when they asked who I was and everything, and then I had my St. Luke order. And the rector saw that and he said, what is it? And I said, I'm in the order of St. Luke. Of course, he's thinking about the Episcopal Church's order of St. Luke with ST instead of Saint. And they're an order all about healing the industry and visiting the sick. And I said, well, now we're independent, but we're a Methodist order and we're interested in the church, the sacraments, the liturgy. Hence, that's why I'm here to hear you. And I went into the whole story of how I got into it and what we're about. So every order, the Franciscans, it's poverty, the Benedictines, it's this, and then he was amazed because he never heard of it.
It's just not surprising.
Not at all.
What honestly, friends, when we talk in our elevator speeches, we have to not use insider language.
Yes.
We're not all monks.
Yeah.
None of us are aiming to be monks. We may have some monkish habits.
More like Brian.
I'm so sorry.
I jokingly like to say, this monk has a bride,
Yeah.
but we're really more like friars.
All right. All right, we have one more group to hear from, and it's going to be an important group, but just understand that there's a lot beneath the surface here that we can unpack and talk about for the next decade. And I want to hear from the group on publications and periodicals. And Sister Magdalene Ruth, are you the reporter for that? You cannot get away from your vocation as a reporter. Come and tell us about that group, please. Thank you. I appreciate the passion that we hear in the room here, so I understand that.
I will give you my elevator speech about the order. The Order of St. Luke is an ecumenical dispersed association of women and men, clergy and lay, who are devoted to liturgical scholarship and sacramental living. You want to unpack that for somebody? Go right ahead. I would venture to say that over the life of the order in its 77 years, publication and periodicals have been at the heart of our ministry. As we heard from Sister Abbott, Brother Mark, Brother Brent, we have always published something. We are now in an era in the life of the church and the world when publishing has gone through what business schools call a tectonic or earthquake event. Our whole structure and institution has been completely upended. And those of you who are authors and have been through this with your own publishers understand viscerally what we're talking about. When Sister Abbott convened our group, which included Brother Derek, Sister Sarah, Francis, Brother Jim, Sister Barbara, Sister Abbott, Brother James, Brother Mark, Brother Brent, and myself. She, in addition to giving us a brief history, laid out 4 questions. How do we now manage publishing, including both books and our periodicals, Doxology and the Font? What does our publications ministry need to be? What does our market need to be? And could or should book publishing and doxology overlap with one another? Historically, they've been sort of separated. And the question now is, can they be integrated? We had a very vigorous and detailed discussion. I have 5 pages of handwritten notes, which I will not give to Sister Chancellor before I transcribe them for her, because they're a great scribble. But we were very benefited by Brother Derek sharing his experience with publishing, by Sister Sarah Francis and her experience working with doxology, Brother Brent and Brother Mark, who have given us a great deal of the history of what we want to go about, and some very wonderful questions that are encouraging us to look outside the historic box of OSL publications. It was very stimulating for me as a 50-year publishing veteran
to sit in that room and listen to the conversation. Because we're doing our best to look ahead, to try to find a path through the chaos that publishing is currently going through. And in order to help us with that, Sister Abbott, after our retreat is finished, would like to convene a task force. This task group would be responsible for helping to define answers to the questions that she put before us. In addition to that, they would be responsible for at least outlining the beginning of a business plan that will sustain the publications ministry from a stewardship standpoint. A key part of this will be the question of, as has come up in the other visioning sessions, how do we share the word about our publications, both within the order and beyond it? We would like to, although we're going to have to at some point use the term marketing, Sister Sarah Francis has pushed us to consider our publications ministry not within the commodified capitalist model practiced by Amazon. And Amazon has been specifically mentioned for reasons we could tell. But within the idea of sharing the word, if we can, we use the word evangelism. And as Brother George said, the apostolic model. The was that, okay, Sister Sarah Francis is really good at this stuff. But that is what we are thinking in the initial discussion of this. There are technologies available to us now that were not available to us 15 years ago when I joined the order. There are technologies that are available to us now that were not available to us a year ago when some of us joined the order or took our life vows. And to be honest, we never even thought about the possibility of audio publications. It just didn't come up. We were thinking print on, the old-fashioned ink on paper or print on screen or something along those lines. The thought that we might include audio publications in our ministry has just come up in this meeting, and I think it's a wonderful idea. So that may be folded into the task force work. The task force will be asked to have a report prepared for the council meeting in May 2024. So we're looking at folks who can meet and turn this around in a short period of time, about 7 or 8 months. We are not at a critical point with our publications ministry, but we are at a point of transition. As we heard this week, Brother Jonathan Hine has asked to be relieved of his responsibilities with doxology. I have asked to be relieved of my responsibilities with the font. And thankfully, Brother Markley has already stepped up to answer that call of service. Let's give him a big hand. But it was made very clear to us, and those of us who've been around the block a time or two understand this, that going forward with OSL publications, it needs to be run according to some business practices. In addition to that, Brother Brent, who is consulting with a church in West Virginia.
In Virginia.
In Virginia, my home, pardon.
I don't consult anybody close, I know where I am.
Oh, okay. there are some crucial questions. Brother Mark asked, does all the talent have to come from among OSL members? All of those who are responsible for editing our publications, finding authors. Brother Brent asked this a very crucial question. And that question is, are we willing to shut down the ministry if our discernment finds that that's God's will for it? Now, as someone who's in the midst of learning how to let go of things, I can attest that that's probably one of the hardest things anybody has to do, is to learn to let go. Have I forgotten anything crucial, folks who are in the discussion? There are a lot of details here, but of course, this meeting is not to micromanage details. It's to sketch a broad picture of where we would like to go. And so I think that pretty much concludes the report of our visioning group. I'm seeing Sister Barbara nod her head vigorously, so I appreciate that. Friends, have I made it clear? Is it understandable?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is our report.
Thank you, sister. Thank you all for your engagement with this process. It is sometimes a difficult thing to do, but it's also very important work as we consider how we move ourselves into the future. And I want to say that one of the reasons we have the digital footprint that we have is due to Brother Scott's work. That cannot be underscored enough, that he gives heart and soul and time and energy and skill to making sure that our website looks good, has things up to date on it when we send them to him. And that we have good communication through him. There's an announcement that Sister Diane needs to make.
Oh, and if anyone has any acetaminophen, not ibuprofen, not aspirin, please let me know.
I do.
Glorious. All right, and for the privilege of her office, I give you our abbot. You want to come here or you want me to bring that there?
My announcement is shorter than this walk. It occurred to me when we were discussing the font and Brother Markley's volunteering, much appreciated, that one gets these positions because the abbot appoints you to them. And so I wanted the minutes to show that Brother Markley has been appointed as editor of the font. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Okay. This is probably a prayer request, a vision, whatever. I remember walking through the School of Theology library and seeing doxology on the shelf and thinking, well, this is an institution with renown, with context, and then finding the chapter. And I wanted to join the order when I discovered that the very authors, dreamers, writers of prayers and liturgies that I have come to love are here. Like, what? That's inspirational. So my question is, who are the writers of the liturgy, the prayers, the lyrics, and the music going forward that we are going to foster, because it is here. I can feel it, I've heard it, but we need to find a way to capture it. And maybe it's a different kind of publication. I don't know, but I wonder what our future is. Because it's a gift. What you have done, what Daniel has done, what others have done is the gift to worship in the world. So, I mean, I'm just laying that out there, because that's a worry for me. So.
And one of the things I would say in response to that, other than thank you for mentioning that, if you have something with which you can gift the order, you know, please use it in your chapter, share it with other chapters, let it get some legs, let it get known. It will find its way into our consciousness, and we will use it, I'm sure. Abbott wants to tell one more story, but Brother Mark, I'm gonna ask, you need the red book and the book of worship. Is that all we need to bring to the service this afternoon?
Yes, and you bring your order of worship, the worship book, but yes, then the red book. Notice also that there are a few references to gather, which is the Catholic hymnal, which is in the pews. So some of that will get used today as well. Just you read that and know where they are there. It's the blue book, right beside you.
Mr. Lewis, close us with a good story.
This is a combination of responding to what Sister Hildy just said at the beginning and responding to the great good news of how many recent members of the order or soon about to be members of the order there are here. And my gratitude for what I have seen in the last few retreats. Thank you for being here. So it's a combination of being new and ending up liturgical. My very first retreat ever, I was in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and I got a phone call from Timothy Crouch. Now, I knew this was one important name. He was the beginning of our most recent major publications work. And Timothy said, are you willing to preach the opening sermon at the retreat? And I swallowed hard and said, yes. And I had no clue why this man called me. That I wrote the sermon, got there a little late, so I didn't have time to schmooze around and get to meet people. So I go into the chapel and I'm sitting up front and I preach my sermon, having not met these people. And when the service ended, I walked down to the front row and I got this, oh, and this is Daniel Benedict, and this is White Hickman, and this is, and I thought, oh my God, these are the people who wrote the books on my bookcase.
Exactly.
It turns out I learned several years later from his wife, when we were talking, she said, did Timothy ever confess to you what happened that you got asked to preach the first time you came here? I said, no, and she said, he got you confused with somebody, you weren't who he intended to call. But it can be a really short path from the first day you walk into a OSL meeting till you're standing up here. So, you're new, we'll talk to you about preaching.
Serving.
Is there anything else?
3 o'clock.
Go with blessing, we'll meet at 3 o'clock in the chapel.
Reporters, please.